Okay, so what an evening we've had so far, and now the pièce de résistance, as they would say in the old days. Barbara Saunders, a wonderful poet, as I wrote up in the newsletter, a wry, sly, clever poet whose humor and perception are both engaging and demonstrative of great talent. One of our regulars, and this will be a great feature. She is an award winning writer and poet with over 30 years' experience helping professionals communicate via the written word. A veteran of writing teams in Fortune 500 companies, she excels at supporting subject matter experts in producing books, papers, manuals, and web content on complex subjects. As a writing coach and a developmental editor, she articulates writing techniques with clarity and humor, aiding writers to communicate clearly in their own voice. And I have to say, she has been impressive every time she comes and presents herself here at Sacred Grounds. So without further ado, I'm going to mute myself and turn the mic to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone, for having me, welcoming me. Um, I just released this new collection in November, and so I'll be reading some poems from this and some older ones and some more recent, newer ones. Um, so I am going to start with what I'll call some origin stories. The first few poems are some origin stories. The view from the tallest building in the world. I took my grandfather's hand, clicked my jaw to pop my ears. We rose and rose to the peak of the empire, exited to the deck. Grandpa pitched his fedora back on his head, put his hands at my waist, hoisted me to the highest ring on the pedestal of the tower viewer. Coin slot fed, eyepieces in focus. The grid below crawled with crowds scrambling for footing, like captive ants in a farm. He had made this climb every year, he said, since he and the building were new to this place. Its construction, his prosperity, testaments to the rewards of hard work and the possibility of progress. When I attempt to state my ambitions in the time it took to ride down from the 86th floor, I realized I never got back to the ground. And so I suck at elevator speeches. And so I am a poet. The next one's called Where I Come From. My grandmother had soiled herself. The nurse was wiping her when I arrived. I backed out of the room, waited in the visitors' lounge, watched soap operas until the bath was done. The view of her naked body shocked me. The ground I traveled to get here, a patch of brown earth with the water drained out, the wind carrying her away. This one is called Where the Mind Goes. My father rode Amtrak to attend my graduation, 3,000 miles from New Rochelle to Emeryville. His first trip to California since shipping out from Fort Mason to Korea. The first time in decades he'd carved out that much time to be alone. On the return trip, a man attempting suicide jumped from the train as it went over the Rockies. A ledge caught him. The rescue took hours while the train waited. So I took some time to jot some things down, my father said whenever he told the story. And even though I know everybody takes things down on occasion, I was shocked to think about my father doing it, like Freud's primal scene. I never asked him what he wrote about, and I've wondered ever since. Dan suggested that I include a poem by another poet that I like, And so I have a couple of poems here that are influences. This one is called China by Dorian Lau. And I love it because it's lyrical and very cinematic at the same time. It starts with like an establishing shot and then goes very interior. China. From behind, he looks like a man I once loved. That hangdog slouch to his jeans, a sweater vest, his neck thick veined as a horsecock, a halo of chopped curls. He orders coffee and searches his pockets, first in front, then from behind, a long finger sliding into the slitted denim, the way that man slipped his thumb into me one summer, as we lay after love, our freckled bodies, two pale starfish on the sheets. Semen leaked and pooled in his palm as he moved his thumb slowly, not to excite me, just to affirm he'd been there. I have loved other men since, taken them into my mouth like a warm vowel, lain beneath them and watched their irises float like small worlds in their eyes. But this man pressed his thumb toward the tail of my spine, as if he were entering China or a ripe papaya, so that now, when I think of love, I think of this. And this next one is a cento. So it's a poem that I built out of a collage of phrases and lines from other poems. All this has happened before. Much more wicked and youthful after all those vampire movies. I kissed the tree man, ravished away, pregnant with his wrongs, splendid in my red dress, skin of my body, part treasure, part bomb, echoing aftershocks of joy. This breath between us, constant ablutions of oil of coconut, of musk and tar. So this next little section is Flights of Imagination. The first one's called To Those Who Would Leave the Womb. To those who would leave the womb, it never happens. The memory of that particular blood colors your consciousness. The pulse of that drum beats with your own, in cross rhythm or in precision like a John Philip Sousa march, breaks through every song you ever hear, with echoes of love and self-loathing, breaks your heart if you try to tune it out. Those chords ring forever, each after the next, a familiar chorale you don't memorize, just recognize when you find it. Throw your dance card in the campfire. While it burns by starlight, 100 perfect sparks rise and fade, and incarnation is enough. This next one is called Metamorphosis. I become a gull, inch by inch, skin to plumage, smile stiffens to keratin beak, lashes fall like needles from dying evergreens, eyes migrate out and shrink, arms to wings, toenails to talons. Fish was never my favorite, with its aftertaste of newsprint and ink. Scooped just now from the tide, victim wiggles in my mouth. Salty, springy flesh. Fish is wonderful. Lift off, meal moving still, blood metallic, like the shimmering silver scales that gave her away as prey. Aloft, I ride Earth's gusts, trusting moments of suspension between exhalations. Gravity, a master who's lost my papers. This is free territory, as long as I can dodge power lines, hawks, owls. I was not so vigilant before I became a gull. This next one is one of my favorites, one of my earliest poems. It's inspired actually by a friend who was obsessed with water and drowned. One drop. Icarus coveted the golden sun, but he was warned too to keep his distance from the sea. As the wax melted and the feathers drifted down, Icarus dove to break water's surface with wingtip, twirled gleefully into a gyre. He didn't drown. The sea did what the sea will do, cracked him apart, pulverized marrow and burst every capillary, dyed itself red like a sunset. This next one was inspired by a dream. After sap comes blood. Out we go to the yard, my grandmother and me. Not the garden with its roses, fig trees, and sweet William. Not the field with cornstalks taller than my head, but through a thicket where creatures heard but not seen scamper around us. We walk for what feels like hours. She stops at a tree indistinguishable from its neighbors, drives a spike through the bark. After sap comes blood, red like mine. I always knew plants could bleed, no matter what the science book said, and that I was not crazy to be attached to a single lost leaf, the way I love my favorite tooth. This one was from a prompt in a poetry challenge, and the prompt was to go walking around the neighborhood and just find something to be inspired by. And I like to watch birds, so this one comes from the birds. The marvelous flock. The epigram from Jack London. To man has been the grief often of seeing his gods overthrown and his altars crumbling. But to the wolf and the wild dog that have come in to crouch at man's feet, this grief has never come. The marvelous flock. I turn an ear toward the trill and see a fat robin, but I'm too greedy to feel wonder at this ordinary bird. I look for the marvelous flock that sometimes follows, the cedar waxwing, bright yellow tails like Chan Master's brushes, gone feral, peachy breasts and bandits' masks, whistling calls and berry guano, drunk as 800 he zin gu passed out in bright red lotus flowers. To woman has come the joy, on occasion, of seeing her goddess revel in playful excess. And if she understands this, no fruit is forbidden, and no one can take her joy from her. So now a change of mood. I have a couple with a little bit of sarcasm. This one got an honorable mention in an Ina Coolbrith contest a couple of years ago. Nevertheless, she persisted. Single black female, 28, seeking smart, athletic man for friendship first. The puppy high school dropout said he almost ran a marathon once and was contemplating a GED and had a very high IQ. So she rewrote the ad, substituted college grad for smart. The wannabe screenwriter complained that affirmative action Ivy League black women were standing between him and his $1 million Hollywood option. So she edited the copy again, this time requesting a professional. The libertarian consultant lectured her about how the US should outsource our manual labor and keep for us the work people should do. So maybe somebody spiritual. A self-labeled old soul with receding hairline and gray whiskers declared he was now auditioning women in their 20s, the previous three Sweet 16 girlfriends having shown themselves to be too immature. So she pulled all the ads but took one last shot with the guy who left the last voicemail message before the last ad expired and sounded nice. Over tiramisu, he made gleeful and morbid descriptions of car accidents and surgeries and bloody murders, till she dropped to her hands and her knees right there in Olivetto's bistro. She crawled up the stairs and across the floor, bumping the legs of well-dressed couples who tried not to stare, and made it to the bathroom without vomiting. She splashed cold water on her face and stared into the mirror, into her very own eyes. Single black female, 28, seeking love. Okay, this one is called Easter Sestina because I again was taking a poetry challenge and we had it was a poem a day and this day was Easter and we had to write a sestina. So this is was my attempt at that. Some of my favorite songs were written in a day. I can rise to this challenge to write a piece that takes a stand, accomplishes more than just forcing words to fall into place for the sake of being there, as long as I don't care so much if the poem dies on this first attempt at words that come to life. Writing is more than my hobby. It's a way of life, a chance to let the personality rise. These past months, I've pretended to stand for ideals I care nothing about. I'm going to let my work assignments fall right off the side of the desk there until all sense of responsibility dies completely. After all, everybody dies, including me. So what should I do with my life? To sleep, to dream, to rise to someone else's dream? If I must take the stand, swear under oath, I'll confess to quiet quitting way back in the fall when it hit me my job has no there there. My time wasted stroking an ego that's not even mine there. My motivation dies when I understand my life has once again become a subplot in someone else's so-called heroic rise. The time has come to stand for something before I fall dead. This week I go. By fall, my days, my finances rearranged, and there will be hope that before Barbara dies, she'll make a life worthy enough to earn a tombstone. I rise from my status as a follower. No more kneeling. I stand. Maybe even at a mic stand. Muster up the kind of pride that brings a spectacular fall and inspires everyone there to remember that everyone dies, reclaim their life, rise. It's Easter, when we celebrate a rise from the dead, the promise of eternal life, not here, there. I won't fall for the appeal to delayed gratification. I, I stand up for myself, and my work ethic dies.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. I'll do this one. I had two epiphanies, so I don't know if I'll fit them both in. The first is Pandora's box. My mother taught me to tiptoe through the world in fear of sins buried here and there like landmines, to strip the music from my voice, lest Lucifer come to my side and seduce me with his harmonies. I hummed my secrets to a black cat who hid my joy in the fireplace urn, where she dropped beaks and feathers, severed tails and bones rasped of their rot. I emptied my mind onto blank pages, smudged words penciled like Mata Hari's smoky eye as she stood before the firing squad blowing kisses. A lover put a square of plain white blotter on my tongue, the finest liquid acid from a lab in California, like invisible ink writing graffiti on my brain to glow in the blacklight of my soul. Why would God object to this? And I will stop there.
Oh,
Unmute, ladies and gentlemen, please. And
I love that you do so much with a short form. You pack a lot of power into a few words. Bravo.
that's
Thank you.
Yep.
I've always that's one of my that's one of the talents. I love that. Beautiful work. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Great set. Wow.
You.
Yeah.